Greetings. As you may have heard, there was some significant EMS legislation passed during the 2025 legislative session that just concluded. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time to describe how we got here and what you can expect as we move forward. I'll begin with a short history of the work that led up to these changes, starting with the EMS Sustainability Task Force. Our task force was convened in 2022. Their mission was to explore the challenges that face rural EMS in Idaho and ultimately to make recommendations to the legislature on changes that we could make focused on the sustainability of EMS throughout Idaho. The task force met regularly until 2024. They did a tremendous amount of research and brainstorming and ultimately settled on three key elements for future legislation. The first recommendation was that Idaho Code should recognize EMS as a critical public service. The second was that counties should be accountable for EMS coverage throughout their county. And third, that the state should provide a sustainability grant to help EMS agencies. The task force completed their work in early 2024. The recommendations from the task force were incorporated into what became Senate Bill 1416. SB 1416 was presented during the 2024 session, and it made it through the Senate, but the session ended before the bill could progress through the House. So legislators, the Legislative Services Office, and Department of Health and Welfare staff worked throughout 2024 on a bill for the 2025 session. The result of that work became House Bills 206 and 207. I'll describe those bills in more detail in the next few slides. So let's start with House Bill 206, as this is the main course. The key elements of H206 are that the EMS Bureau moves from the Department of Health and Welfare to the Idaho Military Division, or IMD. The Public Health Preparedness Program that's currently part of the Bureau will remain in the Department of Health and Welfare in the Division of Public Health. Now the EMS team, our strategy, quality, and innovation team, our time-sensitive emergency team, and StateCom will all move together to IMD. So why IMD? This is a commonly asked question. Well, the military division, as you may know, is home of the Idaho National Guard. But what you might not know is it's also home to the Office of Emergency Management as well as Idaho Public Safety Communications. IMD is focused on emergency response, which makes it a logical home for EMS. Another question we hear is, when does all of this happen? And the answer to that's July 1st, 2025. That's the official date for EMS to move to IMD. I'll talk more about what to expect in the next few slides. The next key change from H206 is that it authorizes a state EMS medical director. We're currently working to have the medical director contracted, identified, and on board by July 1st. Now, H206 also sunsets the Idaho EMS Physician Commission. The EMS Physician Commission has been around for a number of years, and they've done phenomenal work over those years. To name just a few of their accomplishments, they've created the scopes of practice that we use today. They helped navigate us through the scope of practice transition several years ago, and they've also grown the medical director network throughout Idaho that we enjoy today. Now, the key roles of the Commission in Idaho Code are oversight of our scopes of practice, medical direction responsibilities, and making recommendation on personnel licensure discipline cases. Now, the new state EMS medical director will assume most of those responsibilities. In order to continue, however, the EMS community involvement in our decision-making processes that we enjoy with the Commission today, we plan to revamp the current EMS Advisory Committee, or MSAC, to include a subcommittee that focuses on topics such as medical direction and scope of practice. Now, the state EMS medical director will be our representative for that committee, for that subcommittee, and this will allow us to have the needed discussions with the EMS community before we make any changes. The next element of H206 is EMS grants. Now, as you probably know, we currently have a grant program known as MSAVE, or the EMS Ambulance Vehicle and Equipment Grant. Now, the MSAVE grant is for equipment, vehicles, training, etc., but it's not for personnel costs. The Idaho Code doesn't allow you to use that for personnel. Now, H206 moved the existing language for MSAVE out of IDHW code, which is Title 56, into IMD code, which is in Title 46. There were no changes made to the grant requirements or processes. It was largely just copied from one section of code to another. There was, however, new language added, which is in 46-905-2. Now that authorizes a new grant, which is known as the Sustainability Grant. Now, this grant will be available to nonprofit or governmental 911 EMS agencies. Now, in order to be eligible for that grant, those agencies must bill for at least 80% of their billable calls. This grant will be able to cover personnel and other operating costs, unlike MSAVE. Now, the Sustainability Grant is projected to begin in fiscal year 2027, which starts July 1st of 2026, so a little over a year from now. Now, this gives us that year to develop the application and all of the processes for the grant. And we'll, of course, provide more information on the Sustainability Grant as we get closer to July 2026. Now, the second bill is House Bill 207. That's a companion bill to H206. And all that H207 does is it moves the EMS Personnel Licensure Compact language out of Title 56, which is DHW, to the Title 46 section of code, which is IMD. The bill also changes any reference to DHW to IMD, but there's no change to the actual compact language. Another bill is Senate Bill 1159. It's the next bill that we'll cover. S 1159 is what's known as a trailer bill, and it followed H206. And the only change made in this bill was to remove a requirement that counties had to have an EMS plan. The language in 206 required that counties would have to have an EMS coverage plan in order for agencies within that county to receive those sustainability grants. S 1159 removed that requirement, so the counties won't have to have that coverage plan for their agencies to compete for, or not to compete, but to be eligible for the sustainability grant. Now, some of the key details resulting from H206 are, as I mentioned, the EMS Bureau will move from our current location to IMD and specifically out to Gowan Field in Boise. State Comm will remain in their current location. The timeline for the move is still developing, the physical move. We may remain in our current location for a short while after July 1st, depending on several logistical considerations that we're working through currently. Now, all of the key administrative functions, of course, have to be in place at IMD by July 1st, and these include HR, contracting, purchasing, etc. And that's really what we're focusing on right now. All of this probably makes you wonder what changes you might expect to see after July 1st. Now, our goal is that there are very few, if any, changes that are going to impact the actual EMS community. Any impacts that we do see will hopefully be positive. All of our core processes such as licensure, grants, MSAC, etc. should be largely unaffected by our move. Now, there may be a short period of time from June until early fall of this year when there may be a few minor delays in our processes as we navigate into our new home. But of course, we'll do everything we can to minimize any of those disruptions. Now, as I stated earlier, our office location will physically move to Gowan Field in Boise. Gowan Field is a military installation, which means that visitors have to be cleared by the gate guard. They shouldn't stop you from visiting us. You'll just need to give us a call first so that we can get your name to the gate so that they can get you through. More to come on this as we get closer to July 1st. We're excited to see our new space, and we hope that you'll stop by and visit us when you can once we get moved in. So what's next? Well, the upcoming Physician Commission meeting is on the 25th of April, and this will be their final meeting. They plan to spend considerable time discussing their works in progress and planning for the future. We're also working with the contracting team at IMD to get the medical director contract in place so we have a seamless transition from commission to medical director on July 1st. This brings us to MSAC. The next MSAC meeting is on May 8th, and we'll discuss the changes from this transition, and we'll also spend some time discussing any of the subcommittee changes that we need to make to support the new transition. So once the dust settles on our move, we plan to turn our focus to the sustainability grant. We'll have to have discussion with legislators, MSAC, the Sustainability Task Force, and others. We're going to have to do all of that to get ready for 2026. So this is all I have for now. I hope this answers your questions. But if you do have any questions or concern, please feel free to give us a call or email us. Our phone number is the same, 208-334-4000. The best email for us now until we move is idahoems@dhw.idaho.gov. That reminds me, our email addresses will change on July 1st. And we'll, of course, send out a message through iGEMS once we get our new accounts with the news on what our new emails are. But bear in mind that they will change, so you'll have to go in and update your contacts once we get those new emails. So in closing, I'd like to just thank everyone for all you do, and take care and stay safe, and we'll continue to be in touch. Thanks, everybody.